Hi everyone, and welcome back to Nasedyanka, the channel where I talk about Bulgarian history, culture, tradition, and faith. Today, I really would want to introduce you to one of my favorite, I love them all, and I pray to them all, but she's a saint that I have one of the many saints. She's a saint that I have a very special connection to, and I believe that she's also an intercessor who made my encounter with my husband, marriage, relationship, actually take place in this in our earthly life. So I am glad to introduce you to Saint Zlata of Maglen, the Bulgarian saint. And I plan to talk to you a little bit about her life story. I want to also mention, to include in this video, the region where she's from, because that stands to be a question of a lot of conflict. And I'm going to include information that I have translated from an article that is called Macedonia, the Apple of Discord, or you may understand it as the basis of discord. And it was written and published by Pavel Serafimov. So full credit goes to him for that article. None of the information is my personal information. I felt that this would go well together. So we'll see how long the video takes us and whether I'll need to make parts or just stick to this length for however far it takes us. But there is a reason for that. First and foremost, because there's been much misunderstanding and misleading information on the internet, including the name of Saint Zlata of Maglen and where she is from. Well, I'm here to tell you that she's a Bulgarian saint, and I will back it up by the facts that I'll share here. So let's begin. I have changed my strategy today. Usually I am using my handwritten book and I still have it there for later for the article information. But now I have a different resource, and I'm actually going to be looking online at the directly at the information in Bulgarian language. So bear with me, I'll be translating as I go and I'll do my best. So this is the day when we commemorate the great martyr Zlata of Maglen. Like I said, she is a patroness of Bulgaria, especially our Orthodox Church says that she is the patron saint protector of Bulgarians abroad, of immigrants. So Saint Zlata, first and foremost, her name in the pure Bulgarian language, Zlata, means golden or gilded. The word Zlato means gold. Zlata is the feminine version. It just means a woman or a lady that is gilded, is golden. And there is reference here to the symbolic gold or the aura that she exuded because of her steadfast faith and commitment to Christ. So Saint Zlata of Maglen lived in the second half of the 18th century. She was born in a poor Bulgarian family. Her birthplace is called Slatino. It's a village, and it was situated in the Maglen diocese, the diocese of Maglen. Now I made a little pause here to go and look at where is that diocese, that region, and Wikipedia immediately told me that this is Bulgarian Maglen, which in antiquity was the area known as Almopia, one of the 17 provinces of the Macedonian kingdom. Now remember, Macedonia is Bulgaria. Macedonians are Bulgarian, and this resource, which again I'm going to quote it in the comment section, it further details that between the 6th and the 7th centuries, a Slavic tribe settled in the area and it received the name Maglen with some variants in the way in which it is being spelled. There is also apparently a fortress town of the same name, which is an episcopal seat. Wikipedia further informs us that it is assumed that after the conquest of eastern Bulgaria by John Tzimiski in 971, or Ioan Tzimiski, the Bulgarian patriarch German briefly moved his headquarters to that area. And then there was a battle of Belasica in the year of 1014, and the death of the Bulgarian Tsar Samuil took place. So the town was besieged by the troops of Emperor Basil II. After a long resistance that was led by Voivode, the region of Maglen was captured in the year of 1015. And then the Byzantine authorities settled in the area, Syrians, Armenians, and others. After the year of 1018, Maglen was the seat of the Metropolitan of the Ohrid Archbishopric. So the story continues as far as the year of 1203, where the Bulgarian Tsar Kaloyan again conquered back the fortress of Maglen and transferred the relics of the canonized bishop Ilarion of Maglen to his capital Târnovo, all that is in Bulgaria. And then Tsar Ivan Asen II, again a Bulgarian Tsar, king, placed them in the church that's called the Holy 40 Martyrs. So the city of Maglen was completely, they say, destroyed during the Ottoman Muslim invasion. Its ruins are found near the village of Slatina. Today they call it Hrisi. And by the way, Hrisi, now I checked online sources again with different variations of the name of Saint Zlata. I saw that in the Greek language, they actually call her Krize, Hrisi, and again referring to her name as being the golden one. So I assume that it sounds like that's related. So the name Maglen continues to be borne by Bishopric and the region. Again, Wikipedia is informing us. Then it talks about how in the year of 1719, the Episcopal chair of Maglen was promoted to the metropolis of Maglen and Katranica. In the middle of the 18th century, so in the year of 1759, a large part of the Bulgarian and Wallachian population in Maglen, led by the Metropolitan, was forced into Islam. The Metropolitan seat was moved to Katranica, today Pyrgi, then to another place and to another place. I'm not going to go any further than that, but I will put that resource so that you can refer to it if you wish. All that is just to make a reference to that region. So we're talking about Macedonian region, which is a hot seat of dispute nowadays because Macedonia's government, being corrupted, is claiming that they have nothing to do with Bulgarians. But later, like I said, I will share with you what our wonderful researcher Pavel Serafimov has discovered based on more in-depth research in DNA studies, which proves that Macedonia is Bulgarian by DNA. And history and background and writing written sources throughout history. So coming back to the Saint Zlata of Maglen is Bulgarian. She was the daughter of a simple peasant. She shone with both physical, mental, emotional beauty. She was just beautiful. She was distinguished by astonishing piety, humility, and a purity of heart. Her faith in God was firm and unshakable. Her rare bodily beauty became an occasion to adorn her life with, or I should say, it became the cause in a way, kind of like temptation for her life to be adorned with sufferings of a great martyr. A young Turk began to, to stalk her as he was seduced by her beauty. And so he decided to break the boundaries of her honor. One day she went out into the woods to fetch some wood. At that same time, that Turkish man went after her, stalking her along with his own gang of friends, Turkish Muslim friends. He rushed to her, he grabbed her, and with the help of his guy friends, he had abducted her. So he promised to marry her. He insisted that she should become a Muslim first and foremost. He threatened her with torture in the case that she would refuse that condition. So first he abducts her. First he stalks her, then he abducts her, then he makes a false promise of marrying her. And why false? Yeah, even though if he marries her, that's already abuse, the violent act is committed. And then he begins to coerce and force her. I say that because I'm pretty sure that many people nowadays can relate, because I've spoken and I've kind of shared information against trauma. There is more and more understanding nowadays among people with regards to how trauma works, what an assault is. And so I'm just providing you here one of too many examples of how the Orthodox Christians have been subject to this type of assaults throughout the centuries. So, as this Muslim perpetrator pressured the young and virgin Zlata to marry him and to turn to Islam, she called out for help to the Lord Jesus Christ. And after that prayer, she responded by saying, and I'm going to quote what this resource is saying that she said, "I believe and I worship only the Lord Jesus. I will not deny him, even if I be broken into pieces. Besides, I have made a vow of virginity to which I will also not, and I will not change, I will not betray this vow, this promise, for anything in the world." So, what was the consequence? Of course, there was a consequence. The Turks decided to try first to persuade her with softer means of cajoling and practically grooming. She was handed over for this purpose to the women, the Turkish Muslim women. Then they were expected to find, or they were told, like they were given orders to figure out ways to enthrall her into the faith of Islam, to convert her. So the Turks strained all their cunning in this direction. They ran out of ideas of how to convert her. At that point, Zlata was told about the Muslim paradise. They told her stories and fables about how worldly pleasures and how pleasing to the eye and to the flesh it was, and how beautiful it was. You can imagine about the sensual life of Islam. They told her stories about that. They told her stories about the voluptuous passions in those, about the wealth that she would acquire, about the luxury in which she would live if only she would become Muslim and marry that Turk, who was her perpetrator once again. So at that point, the Turkish people began to sing luring songs to her, songs of passion, songs of trying to captivate her attention, basically. So they smiled under pretense. You can imagine, like, glimpsing and grinning. They played, cajoled, they danced in front of her, and they repeated the tales of a wonderful life, that the wonderful life in Islam, the wonderful life of Muslims. So young Zlata listened to them, and she looked at them with disgust. And these are two words in Bulgarian language that, let's see how it would, just kind of like utekchenie, with fatigue. She was not interested, is what this is trying to say. Aroused powerfully by her steadfastness in the Christian faith and by the power of her chastity, the Turkish people invited her parents at that point and her 3 sisters to talk to them. So they actually forced her family to try to influence her so that she would convert to Islam in order to agree to become the wife of the Turk. So the Turkish threatened her family by basically informing her family that evil stuff and torture and death would follow as a consequence if they did not convince their daughter to, again, convert and marry this perpetrator. So you can imagine, struck by fear and horror of this situation, her parents and sisters began to persuade Zlata to accept the Islamic faith. So they said things like, and here's a quote from this resource that I'm sharing, they said, "Dear daughter, spare us and your sisters. We will perish if you do not accept the offer of the Turks. God is merciful. He will forgive you for the sin committed by violence, which was basically enforced upon you." At that point, Zlata was faced with a tremendous struggle within her soul because of this wickedness. Basically, she was pressured before a rock and a hard place, right? Her love for her parents and sisters, on the one hand, was pulling her, and then her love and duty, her commitment to Christ, on the other hand, stood before the embarrassed gazes, basically, the embarrassed gaze, or the uncomfortable gaze, I should say. So the question was which one to choose. She was raised before a great dilemma. And I often place myself in her shoes. I mean, if you can place yourself in those shoes to look at your family, especially if you grew up in a family that was loving and caring. I know that not everybody has had that luxury. And it may be difficult to compare, but people have loved ones, even if they're not within their family. If it's a core family, many times I've heard from people stories where they just feel split between the betrayal of the family and the fact that the family is family. That's her mom, that's her dad, these are her siblings. And in her case, they were caring people. They just wanted her to stay alive. So the tears of her parents and sisters basically tore her heart. She thought and she thought and she reflected, and at last she declared with resolution. So she said, "If even you, my parents and my sisters, force me to renounce the Lord Jesus Christ, know that you are no longer my parents and you are no longer my sisters. My father remains only the Lord Jesus, my mother, his pure mother, and my brothers and sisters, the martyrs, the holy saints." The Turks at that point grasped, finally understanding that this young woman would not be inclined to renounce her Orthodox faith by such means. So they decided to try the more terrible means of torture. So for the duration of 3 months, every day they beat her with sticks. Then they cut straps from her back and basically brought her before her very eyes, lowering her before her eyes. With a glowing iron rod, they pierced her head from one ear to the other. But gracefully supported by the Lord, the holy great martyr Zlata endured and withstood all of this cruel, deadly, and horrifying torture. So when she was left for a while to rest, she heard that a priest of her parents, the abbot of Stavronikita monastery, so the monastery of Stavronikita, he was Hierom monk Timothy, had come to the village he was visiting by a Christian asked him to pray earnestly for her soul, so that God would sustain and give her the strength to worthily complete her martyrdom. And so God supported and glorified Saint Zlata. She completed her, I don't know how to call it, this whole experience, her feat in a way, the feat or the podvig of a great martyr. The ferocious Turks hung her in a yard of under a wild pear, in the backyard of a wild pear, basically. I should say like a green field where there was a wild pear, right? I'm translating here, it doesn't sound the same in English. And then they basically ended up cutting her body into pieces. So in this way, our church says that gold cleansed in the fire of suffering, just like gold gets purified through the fire of suffering, the holy great martyr Zlata of Maglen gave her soul unto the Lord on October the 18th, that's new calendar, add 13 days. I said 14 in previous videos, but it's 2 weeks, 13 days. And that's the year of 1795. So this is quoted from the Lives of the Saints, and I will, like I mentioned, include that resource under the comments section. I'm also adding the dates of the old calendar, because the old calendar is the correct calendar, even though many of the resources are referring to the new altered version of the calendar. And I've mentioned the calendar matter in the past. I will talk about it more at further length and depth in the future again. So for now, I'll just shift to this other source of information. What I really want to talk to you about is related to my notes from the article based on research by Pavel Serafimov, which was posted under SPAROTOK, the True Bulgarian History. And this particular article is called Macedonia, the Apple of Discord. I am including his resource again under the documented like comment section. Please look at that. I'm not claiming any rights over his great and heavy hard work. I admire his hard work, and I wish that this would be more accessible in the English language, because it is it's just astonishing. So let's see where to begin. So he says that for a long time, certain individuals have been making false claims that the population of today's Macedonia is of a different origin from the Bulgarian background. Moreover, on top of that, there are also false claims that the inhabitants of Macedonia are native or local people, whereas those from Bulgaria are quote-unquote Asian immigrants. It just sounds so offensive. And this is what popular media is broadcasting. The people launching these criminal lies keep silent about the consequences of such important and large-scale anthropological research that has taken place since the 30s throughout the 20th century. He furthermore continues by saying that actually the Bulgarian population of Macedonia is of no less importance as that of Bulgaria's anthropological type. As a matter of fact, up until recently, people knew very well that the inhabitants of Bulgaria and Macedonia were the same people. Up until the 19th century, none of the inhabitants of Macedonia thought in their right mind that they were anything different from Bulgaria. So a prominent Serbian, Serafimov says, a Serbian scientist by the name of Verkovic, he was a long-time teacher in Macedonia, having been sent there by the Serbian government on a special mission, wrote in the preface to his collection, and let's see, he said, "But I myself called this song Bulgarian, not Slovenian, Because of that, because today someone would ask a Macedonian Slav, what are you? In places, I would be responsible for him. I'm Bulgarian, and I call my language Bulgarian. Just an example of what was written, right? Confirmation that they call themselves Bulgarian. In the collection of the Miladinu brothers, Bulgarian folk songs in Zagreb, I think that's 61. In a number of places in the folk songs, the population of Macedonia also defines itself as Bulgarian. So, I'm going to skip my notes and go a little bit further. Okay, let's see here what Pavel Serafimov further informs us of. Here he talks about the so-called VMORO. Now this stands in the English language for the Internal Revolutionary Organization of Macedonia and Odren. Let's talk about it. He says that we can easily derive detailed information about the Bulgarian national and linguistic identity of the Bulgarian population in Macedonia if we only were to look at the archives of documents, books, and published material of the Balkan countries, including also on top, but the Balkan countries are the Slavic countries, but to that also go Turkey, Russia, France, Austria-Hungary, England, England, right? Great Britain, England, and more. So, for example, there are over 150 volumes that contain rich and exact, precise documentation. Also in Ban, this is the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences, the university, there are letters of Goce Delchev and correspondence as well as documentation by the Internal Revolutionary Organization of Macedonia and Odren, also newspapers of the organization, as well as available, those that are available in pure Bulgarian language as well as other languages. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the appellation or the name of Macedonia. It is used to indicate today's geographic region. So basically that's referring to where Macedonia is situated. This name originated from the milieu of the European humanists and the Greek revivalists over the last century. Furthermore, Pavel Serafimov informs us that on this subject, Kuzman Shapkarev has expressed in one of his letters to Marin Drinov that the name Macedonians, which until recently, barely 10 through 15 years ago, was imposed on us from the outside, is no less strange, and it did not come as some think from our intelligence. Nonetheless, the people in Macedonia know nothing about this archaic nickname, which today has been renewed for a cunning reason on the one hand and quite foolish reason on the other. End of quote. So Pavel Serafimov continues further by drawing attention to the fact that it is completely unjustified to claim that the population of Macedonia, where in the last century the revival and the struggle for ecclesiastical independence of the Bulgarians began, represents some nationality or some kind of a culture that's separate, different from the Bulgarian identity. It is a mistake to claim that the population of Macedonia has a national consciousness, quote unquote. This is the irony here, which is different from the Bulgarian national consciousness. So it is a myth, to claim that Macedonian national consciousness is different from Bulgarian national consciousness is false. It's impossible. Additionally, Pavel Serafimov draws the attention to emphasize that, in fact, the literature in Macedonia is filled with, in other words, it abounds in passionate defense of the Bulgarian name and the Bulgarian consciousness. That is self-identification, the Bulgarian national identity, right, of the Macedonian population. Okay, so and kind of like to wrap it up, Pavel again is emphasizing that there is plenty of evidence that proves clearly, beyond doubt, with no doubt, that Macedonians and Bulgarians share the same ethnicity. We have the same one and same ethnic background. Here is a question though. What about ancient Macedonians? So let's look at that. He includes that. So he says, again, not my information. I did not concoct this information. I'm just sharing with you what Serafimov's research found. In the 2nd century BC, there was such a mass settlement of Macedonia by Thracians that we can safely say that the country land was Thraicized. It was populated by Thracians. Now remember, in previous episodes, I have talked about how Thracians are the Bulgarian ancestors. There is much on that as well. Let's see what Serafimov says though, again, coming back here. He says that Titus Livius mentions that due to the numerous wars of the Macedonian king Perseus, the country's population dangerously decreased, and it was necessary to bring large groups of Thracians over. So there is a quote. He further transported a large body of Thracians into Macedonia, and in these ways, during all the time, he was undisturbed by alarms of war. He devoted all of his thoughts and care to increasing the power and resources of his realm. End of quote. We continue forward with, again, Pavel Serafimov's information here. A little later, Perseus once again settled, or brought in, he brought in Thracians in Macedonia. And again, there is another quote in English. He transferred almost the entire population from the maritime cities to the district now called Emathia, formerly known as Paeonia. You would spell it as Paeonia. And he had handed over those cities to the Thracians and other barbarians for their residence. End of quote. Serafimov continues. The urban population, on the other hand, was largely displaced by the Romans. Pliny the Elder testifies that after the Battle of Pydna, Aemilius Paul sold the population of 70 cities and 2 cities into slavery. In this way, the rural population, which is of Thracian origin, remained in Macedonia. So the ancient author Strabo also confirms that as he wrote, the same fact as he wrote, quote, I'm quoting, Macedonia was inhabited mainly by Thracians and Botiae, which is a Pelasgian tribe. And Botiae, you can probably spell it as Bottiaei. These are, again, tribes of the Thracians, Pelasgian tribe, like they clarify here. So further, Serafimov continues. Emathia is the name that they used back there then to refer to what is now called Macedonia. Strabo writes, quote, what is now called Macedonia was in earlier times called Emathia, and it took its present name from Macedon, capital M, one of its early chieftains, and on top of that, there was also a city Emathia close to the sea. Now, a part of this country was taken and held by certain of the Epirotes. Epirotes, is that how you would say it? So this is Epeirotes, and the Illyrians, but most of it by the Botiae and the Thracians. So some was taken by the Epirotes and the Illyrians, but most by the Botiae and the Thracians. That's the Bulgarians, their background. Further, there is somebody by the name N. Gregorius who confirms that Livy, Strabo, and Plinius have also said the same, they have confirmed the same information. He mentioned that from ancient times, Macedonia was inhabited by the Mysians. Now, the Mysians were also part of the Thracians. They were another tribe of the Thracians, the Bulgarian ancestors, right? Then Serafimov is listing many other names. Lădiacon, Dăhumătian, Măgăvală, Cantacuzin, and others, just different names that have stated the same fact, that the Mysians and the Bulgarians are one and the same people. Mysians, one of the tribes from the Thracians, and Bulgarians are one and the same people. So, okay, that's historical evidence, right? People who have kept scribes written traces over history. Comatian explains in more detail that in the 4th century BC, the Bulgarians were driven north by the army of Alexander the Great. But after a while, they returned and recaptured their own land with their strength. So a lot of the land there used to be many battles. It used to be taken away. This is a hot place between 3 continents where Bulgaria is situated. People used to trade with Asia, with Europe, with Africa. So it's always been a place that has been subject to battles. So that's why we're coming back again throughout the centuries and meeting statements such as this one, that the Bulgarians came back and recaptured their own land. Well, it makes sense. They lived there originally. Then it was taken away from them. Then they went back to claim it, and the story goes on. So Pavel further says that the European Mysians, or Mysi like we say, were known to the people as the Bulgarians, just confirming that same statement. So in ancient times, those Mysians, the Bulgarians, were displaced or deported. They were moved away from their land, pushed out of their own territories by the military force of Alexander from Olympus, which was located near Brusa, to the North Ocean and the Dead Sea. And after a long time, they crossed the Danube River with a terrible, mighty army, I should say, and they captured all of the neighboring regions. Pannonia and Dalmatia, Dalmatia is how it is in Bulgarian language, Thrace and Illyricum, Trachea and Illyric, and a large part of Macedonia and Thessaly, that's Macedonia and Thessalia. So the popular claims that Bulgarians come from Asia is a myth, and Serafimov is emphasizing this. I really want the public to be aware of that, because again, when I go to research Wikipedia sources, they can be misleading, not always, but they can, and I've seen some of that nonsense, which is also, it's been infiltrating Bulgarian education books during communism, again, falsely informing people. This is what we will call spoiled or rotten fruit, and these are the words again of Serafimov. The spoiled or the rotten fruit of the propaganda of the old Greeks, ancient Greeks, he says, who sought at any cost to annex the territory of Thrace, which was and has always been rich in natural resources. So here he quotes, he's basically expressing how many lies have been told about the origins of Bulgarians, and I will skip further because I think I've emphasized this plenty of times, and it's never enough to emphasize on how many lies have been spread throughout the world about Bulgarian origins. And it's just not fair. This is just not fair to spread out lies. Why not face the truth and responsibly own accountability for how things are, for what exactly happened throughout history? And then if we want to, change or learn from those ways and, change our actions, okay, so be it. But to claim that certain events did not take place when so many other authors have written about them, I want to say that's blasphemy. This is just blowing my mind. So, coming back to Serafimov's information further on, he says that Bulgarians have nothing in common with Middle Asia, neither in language nor in anthropological, genetic, and cultural composition. And again, all the cultures are okay, but let's not pretend that we are something that we are not. So this fact was established, he further informs us, a long time ago, through an anthropological study of a huge number of people. So on January the 12th, 1938, he says that Professor Metodi Popov presented the results of a research study, where the results basically, so he's summarizing his results here. Quoting again, Serafimov is quoting, so I'm sharing that with you. It says, from the analysis of the anthropometric studies on the Bulgarian people, it stands out clearly, I allow myself to repeat once again, that all the mentioned data speak definitely and clearly that the racial mixtures that make up our people belong to the known European races. End of quote. Regarding the blood tests, Professor Popov, the same professor, says that all this shows how far we are in terms of our blood group ratios from the Asian peoples. 20 years later, Serafimov says that this researcher presented a new, updated, and more detailed study, the result of which reads, and again Serafimov is quoting, it says, the anthropological types that make up the modern Bulgarian people belong entirely to the European race. Among those anthropological types, the first place in distribution, according to the detailed data of our research, is occupied by the Pontic, like we say Pontiski, or the Black Sea type. More recent genetic studies have also been performed. Further, Serafimov continues with that, enriching us with that type of information, as he says that they confirm the results of the same earlier anthropological studies, which say that modern Bulgarians are close to the Mediterranean genotype, and we come closest to the inhabitants of northern Italy. This is continuing to say that Bulgarians are basically a highly Slavic population, but they are a special type of Slavic genotype with the presence of strong Thracian elements. And this was said by Golubov, relating to our common Thracian roots, Bulgarians' roots with Thracians. This is clear from the research presented in Sofia, Bulgaria, within the project Characterization of the Anthropogenetic Identity of the Bulgarian People. According to the authors of the study, the Thracians did not disappear from these lands, as is popularly claimed in textbooks. Serafimov continues. Another study was also performed, this time by Swiss scientists, 2 years before the study of the Bulgarian and Italian genetics, and it confirmed the same facts. Again, he's quoting, half of the genes of the Bulgarians come from the Thracians. This scientific statement was published in the Serbian magazine Nin, which refers to the conclusions of the Swiss Institute of Genetics, Igenea. This really refers to DNA. For us, the original population of the Bulgarian lands are Thracians, and in this sense, we consider them Proto-Bulgarians. Let's see. This is another quote that he's referring to by Amanda Felber. So I'm going to skip now, going a little bit further to see what else I can include in this video before we wrap up. A few final, last though not least, words. Again, Pavel Serafimov informs us of the facts that actually speak eloquently. Like he says, enough that in terms of origin, language, and culture, there is no difference between the inhabitants of Bulgaria and Macedonia. Old chroniclers and soulless politicians of modern day and times of our new age try to instill quarrels and to alienate Bulgarians from our own people around the world. And these are just basically acts of crime. And I agree with Pavel completely. They're criminal acts against humanity, against human rights. They attempt to erase the identity, the self-awareness, the ethnic identity, or how can I say ethnic self-awareness of our people and our people who are currently living in Macedonia, and they're being oppressed and they're asking for help. So I want to refer here to one more piece of information which I had prepared to share with you all, and I feel like this is a good moment to mention it here. Okay, here it is. Again, I'll add all of these resources in the comments section. I have to readjust. This comes from News BG. It was obviously published in a news article. An article that was published on August 19th, 2023. Pretty much recent. It was named "Cardiologists from the Motherland Provide Free Care to Bulgarians in Albania." So it says that the Bulgarian doctors offer preventative cardiac examinations in one of the mountainous regions in Albania where residents with Bulgarian roots predominate. This is part of the initiative of the Bulgarian Remembrance Foundation in the Mala-Prespa region. It is being held under the patronage or the leadership of the Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Maria Gabriel. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has ensured the transportation of the medical team and the equipment with the military plane Spartan, that's the name, as well as logistical assistance in that field. Cardiologists from Bulgaria examine patients in the clinic in Pustets village with professional equipment that's been provided by a Bulgarian hospital in the period between August 18th through August 20th, 2023. Dr. Milan Vrabevsky, who is the main organizer of this initiative, has stated that this is not the first charity initiative that Bulgarians are engaging in for our people of the region there, nor will it be the last one. So, the Bulgarian Memory Foundation informs us that the medical facility in the village of Pustets serves over 2,000 people. However, there are only 2 general practitioners at their disposal. Plus, the local people don't even have access to medical specialists nor equipment. And for what I have read in other articles and informing resources on the matter of Bulgarians in Macedonia and Albania currently, they're being oppressed. They are living in areas where it's difficult to access due to unpaved road structures. They are also basically denied services in terms of their identity, documentation. I think I mentioned that in a previous video that discussed Macedonia. But for now, I'm going to end here. I think that gives you a lot of information, and we kind of wrapped it up with starting with the saint for the day, and then moving to some geography, some history, and some DNA studies. Hey, that can help. When it comes to corruption and manipulation, crimes against humanity, DNA studies can help. This is, there is nothing wrong with mixing with other people and knowing other people, but there is wrong with denying a certain people's background, with denying our own identity. So I hope that this brings a note of inspiration. Once again, I don't shy from bringing up the heated conversations, so I'm pretty aware, I hope I am, that many people won't like my videos, and then again many people will like my videos. And so I just want to say to you all that you are welcome, and if you are triggered, take care of yourself. If you want to learn more, stay tuned, share your comments. I am grateful for those of you who have shared kind and supportive comments, including corrections or suggestions. I think these are wonderful ways to grow, so long that they are also consistent with facts, right? With the truth. So I absolutely appreciate you guys. Thank you for your time and attention and support. I hope that this finds you well, and I will update you with a new video soon. Thank you. Bye bye.